All right, hey everybody. My name is Willie Lawson, and this is FightbackMedia.com. This just an individual story that I wanted to cover because a lot of times, you know, media that is so quick to jump on a story and it gets amplified by social media and you start hearing all this stuff and we find out that you know what, it's not right, it's wrong. And well, and this story about the Singapore Airline Boeing 777 I believe it was, that had a 6,000 foot drop, and there was actually a gentleman that lost his life. He lost his life due to a heart attack, and there were some people who were injured because if your plane just starts to descend through some severe turbulence, people get tossed around the aircraft, so people get bumps and bruises. This gentleman had a heart attack, but we're gonna talk about it. I'm going to talk about where we're getting this information because I think getting that information from a source that is knowledgeable about these kind of things is very, very important. I have a newfound, I don't know, thing about aviation, and I am a person who has an antenna that outside of my home, so I can track planes who are in my general area. And I've also got the app on my phone. I know, I got it bad. Super nerd, right? But this article is from the website Flight Radar 24. It's another flight tracking website. You can get I got mine is Flight Aware. You can also get a Flight Radar 24 antenna, and I've applied for one. It just hasn't come yet. Yes, I know. Are they going to do basically the same thing? Yes. Do I want them both? Yes. Will I use them both? Absolutely. Anyway, here's the headline from the article from Flight Radar 24. One dead, dozens injured in the SQ312 turbulence, and that's Sierra Quebec 321 turbulence. Here it is. One person is dead, and dozens have been injured after Singapore Airlines flight Sierra Quebec 321 experienced severe turbulence over Miramar. The Boeing 777-300ER was operating from London to Singapore when it encountered turbulence at approximately, and we're going to use UTC time, which for most of us, if you think about, it's kind of like prime meridian, okay? UTC time at 7:49. That's for us. That's about 7:45 in the morning, right? That was on May 21st. Okay. There were thunderstorms and some severe in the area at the time. The flight departed London at 21:38. Now that's 38 minutes after 9 p.m. UTC on May 20th, proceeding southwest towards Singapore. Now think about where London is. Put your finger up, and now go south. That's down, and go west. There you go, towards Singapore. So based on the ADS-B data, now that's the same data that we use to track the planes, and that we can track the planes because all these planes, even private planes now, are emitting ADS-B data, so we can see how fast they're flying. Everybody can see how fast they're flying, at what altitude they're flying. We can track and see, how quickly they're descending, how quickly they're climbing. That's basically very basic explanation of ADS-B data of the things that we can see, and that's it directly from the aircraft. So at approximately 7:49 UTC on the 21st of May, the flight encountered a rapid change in vertical rate. Now that could be one of the things. You could be doing fine and suddenly climb rapidly, or it could descend rapidly. Consistent with a sudden turbulent event. At 8:03 UTC, the aircraft changed course and began a diversion to Bangkok. Here's a flight SQ321 landed in Bangkok at 8:45 UTC and was met there with medical personnel. Now here is going to try to do this as best I can. Now, I'm not an expert. I'm just somebody, I'm a dangerous individual because I have a little bit of knowledge. But hopefully this will explain it to you a lot better than any explanation that you got on CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or whatever. All right, here's a chart, the kind of chart that we see, as aviation nerds when we're watching a plane. We're watching the speed and we're watching the altitude. All right, we can see the blue line that goes straight across. We can see that, and it is about 600 miles an hour, right? We also see the black line. The black line is the altitude, right? A little over 36,500 feet. Flight level 365 flight level. And we see how it just goes and goes, and then suddenly is up almost to 37,000 feet, and then drops suddenly, and then up again to almost 38,000 feet, and then plummets from 38,000 feet just above 35,000 feet. You see that? You see that? And then back up, right? That's a vertical rate. Now, if we look at the blue line, the blue line is the calibrated altitude. We're up. And that's the whole thing. That was a drop. That big line you see that goes down, that's the vertical rate of descent. The vertical rate of descent was about 1,800 feet per minute, which is pretty good. But if you look at the blue line, that was the drop from a little over 37,000 feet down. That was it. And now we watch this right here, the blue line as it descends from a little right under 37,500 feet back down to 37,000 feet, and it stays stable for the rest of the flight. This is the kind of plane. This plane here is a Singapore Airlines 777, and that's the aircraft. That's not the aircraft that was involved in the problem, but that's an aircraft that looks like it. So if you wonder what they look like, they look like that. And that is the correct airline. So, so when we hear, let me get back in here. So when we watch the news and we hear about these things, this plane just dropped out of the air 6,000 feet. Kinda. Not really though. Yes, there was an event, and that event was caused by some severe turbulence in the area. And as soon as this event happened, they decided to go somewhere else. Instead of trying to make it to Singapore, they went to Bangkok and landed the plane without incident. Now, it's awful that this man had a heart attack, because it had to be stressful, and which means that he was, quite frankly, already sick. As someone who has heart disease, um, my event happened. It was heart failure, but it wasn't a heart attack. But my event happened after watching Florida State win the national championship back in 2014 against Auburn, and I was excited. But that's not what caused my event. I had a lung infection that caused my event. So these things kind of can happen at the same time, but not. They didn't necessarily go together. One didn't necessarily cause the other, as far as we know now. But he wasn't killed because the plane decided to. I mean, the plane through whatever decided to take a 6,000-foot plummet. Now, if you're flying in an aircraft and you're using flight radar, or flight radar 24, you're using flight aware, that plane isn't going to stay locked in at 37,215 feet. No, it's going to move up and down, and sometimes it'll move up and down by as much as 100 feet. It's the sky, so try to get all of the information. Try to ask all of the questions. Now, if I have not explained that well enough, there's a link in the description box to the article that I read to you, and then you can look for it yourself. How about that? Anyway, got to get out of here. Make room for somebody else. And so until we see you again, go out there and learn something. I love somebody, and for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.